Thank you very much. I'm still here. Thank you very much.
All right, former President Donald Trump thanking and shaking hands with police officers in Mar-a-Lago, Florida right now. This as authorities are trying to come to grasp yet another attempt on his life this past weekend. Aisha Hasni is waiting out in Flint, Michigan for the former president, who's going to be part of a big town hall tonight. This is the first chance for most folks to see and hear him since all of this. Aisha.
It's been pretty remarkable, Neil, to see the former president get back on the campaign trail just about 48 hours after someone attempted to take his life while he was playing golf. So I think the people that you see behind me are anxious to see how he's doing. They're anxious to hear details of the story in his own words after he gave us a little bit of information last night on X about what happened at that golf course. Watch.
All of a sudden, we heard shots being fired in the air, and I guess probably 4 or 5, and it sounded like bullets. So we're in the group, and everybody we got into the carts, and we moved along pretty good.
So Trump has blamed rhetoric from the left for the assassination attempts, both of them. But some Trump supporters that I've been speaking to today say that things have just gotten really out of hand in American politics, and the rhetoric really needs to come down on both sides of the aisle.
It's not good on either side. I think it all just needs to end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Things are just nuts. I mean, I've been around a minute or two. I have never seen the chaos and the name calling and the inflammation, the vitriol of the way politics are now.
And the Trump campaign actually just reaching out to me right now, live on air, saying that there really is no comparison between the rhetoric on both sides, basically saying that the left has been in a different league of their own. Now, tonight's town hall is hosted by Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. The focus is the auto industry and manufacturing jobs in this crucial, critical swing state. According to the latest Fox News Power Rankings, Harris has an edge here. VP Harris is scheduled to be here this week, actually. Trump's running mate J.D. Vance was in Sparta today, as really, I mean, it's now down to 50 days, less than, and we've got a former president who is not wasting any time, doesn't want to not be on the trail, and you'll see him here tonight, here in Flint.
Come at the king, you better get in line. Stand there shaking, waiting for your turn. Behind the old front, just heed this alert. You better finish what you start. The media clouds on for the attack, but I stand 6 feet above the ground, because you can't keep a good man down. Come on, take your best shot. Pump my fist, give me what you got. You can't keep a good man down. Come on, take me to my grave. I'll rise again and again and say, you can't keep a good man down. No! You can't keep the good man down. 'Cause you can't keep a good man down.
In America, we don't worship government.
And you can't keep a good man down. And you can't keep a good man down.
We worship God.
Come on, take your best shot. Pump my fist, give me what you got.
What's going on, everyone? It's your boy, Benny. Take your best shot. 2-time assassination attempt survivor. Donald Trump's got the aura, and he's going to be sharing that aura with us tonight, live with Sarah Sanders at a town hall. It's going to be a rockin' evening. It's going to be fascinating to see Donald Trump for the first time on camera since the second assassination attempt. And we have some remarkable breaking news and a very interesting pre-program for you. We'll be joined by Mike Benz, who has a lot to say for the first time on this very suspicious case where a man who has major foreign ties to foreign government, recruiting fighters to fight in Ukraine, working with Iran to try and get Afghanistan fighters to go to Ukraine, How the hell does this guy get a gun? He's got 100 criminal charges, one of them for weapons of mass destruction. What the hell is that about? How's he voting in North Carolina when he lives in Hawaii? Guy has a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris bumper sticker on his car, and he's a left-wing lunatic who tried to blow the head off of Donald Trump, tried to kill Trump, and he tried to get it all on camera. He had his trusty GoPro sitting right next to him. So we have one of the world's foremost experts on some of the darker arts of what is going on behind the scenes in this crazy times. Again, Mike Benz will be joining us to break down what we know and, most importantly, what we don't know about the Trump assassin. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I got to start by playing you a clip of somebody that we respect very deeply. And this clip's gone thermonuclear today. And what's interesting about it is that this is a clip from our friend Dan Bongino, who must have been speaking directly to our programming because he calls for Eli Crane, who just this morning said there's a mole in the Secret Service. Do we have that clip, boys? Eli Crane says just this morning on our program, and this is going all over, broke massive news today, saying there's a mole in the Secret Service. There may be somebody in the Secret Service that's feeding information to Donald Trump's enemies about his whereabouts and where he's going. Might be working with something far worse than what we know. I mean, the rabbit hole may go deeper. Now, the reason why Dan Bongino's clip caught our attention is, one, Dan Bongino's a former Secret Service agent, and so his commentary on this is really important. Also, Dan Bongino's been one of those dudes who has been professionally right about all of this. He's one of those guys who went in and who testified, actually, in front of Congress. And in his congressional testimony, Dan Bongino said, listen, there's going to be another assassination attempt. And it's important in these times when times are confusing, it's important to look and listen to the people who've been right. Tucker Carlson's been right. Alex Jones has been right. Glenn Beck has been right. And Dan Bongino was the rightest of all of them because just 1 week ago, Dan Bongino said this to Congress.
You know, in your opinion, is the Secret Service in a better spot today with Director Rowe in charge?
No, it's worse. And sadly, I'm glad this is all being recorded because when something else happens, and I hope it doesn't, I pray to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, that I'm wrong. That you play this and go, look, that guy was crazy. You think this is the last incident, you're out of your mind.
I just want to stop right there. There's Dan Bongino 1 week ago making the declaration that they're going to try and make an attempt on Trump's life again. Again. He says this is going to be the last. You think this is going to be the last time that they do this? No way. No way, Jose. Dan goes on.
We've seen these incidents over and over. We saw the Georgia grenade incident with President Bush. They overtook the magnetometers. The Secret Service leadership in charge now with the exact same people. Exact same. Can you imagine a C-suite at a company that makes widgets? We find out that there's a design defect. The widget explodes and kills 10 people, and the CTO gets a promotion to CEO. You understand that's what happened here, correct? These are the same people. Kim Cheadle, the director, wasn't even fired. She was allowed to resign. She'll go get some cushy job somewhere, and her deputy, who is one of the guys behind these stupid waste of time things like agents wearing red ties on the detail. Because this actually happened, by the way. These people will tell you this under oath if you get the right people. He was concerned about the tie color of the agents on the detail because it seemed to imply he supported President Trump. Congressman Biggs wearing a red tie. You're wearing a semi-red tie. It has nothing to do with anything. This is the kind of stuff the Secret Service was actually wasting their time with while withholding CSU counter surveillance assets and counter sniper assets from probably the most threatened man on earth.
So probably the most threatened man on earth. Bongino goes on to say that this isn't the Secret Service that I served under. He's speaking to Eli Crane. Eli Crane was on our program this morning, made huge news. Eli Crane was on our program this morning saying there's a mole in the Secret Service and we don't think that Trump is safe. Here's the congressman.
Two is this. The president, my advice to the president is to bolster your private security around you, not only to fill holes in the gaps that the Secret Service is continues to leave open, but also to watch the watchers. There is a very real possibility at this point that there is a mole within the Secret Service team surrounding the president or at the highest levels of the Secret Service. And so he does need somebody, a group of individuals around him that are loyal to him and are not politicized. They're not worried about seeking promotion, and they don't answer to people that hate the president. And so, that would be my advice to the president at this point.
I want to tell you, this is the reason why we play this clip is, one, it's making a lot of news. A member of Congress who's a Navy SEAL who has fought and was willing to die for this country is saying that the Secret Service is not adequate in protecting the president. There's a mole inside of the Secret Service. What does Eli Crane know? Eli Crane, of course, carried on and out some of the most sophisticated and classified missions for the United States of America. He's gone and interfaced with a lot of bad guys in very bad places around the world. What does he know? There's only so much he can tell me on a stream. Get a load of this. This is wild. On Dan Bongino's broadcast today, he does a specific plea to Eli Crane and begs Eli Crane that they've got to start looking at the section of U.S. code that says the Secret Service will protect the president. There used to be the Pinkerton men, right? There used to be a very different. The Secret Service is not in our Constitution. The Secret Service could be totally reformed. It could be ripped up. It could be thrown away. Something I'd like to talk about Mike Benz who will join us in just a minute. But it's interesting. There have been many protective measures. Like, for instance, Abraham Lincoln had to go into the U.S. Capitol, by himself. Like, he had to be ushered. He was so unpopular. He had to be taken. They couldn't trust anybody, including the president's detail, to take Abraham Lincoln into the Capitol to get sworn in as president. He was driven to D.C. in the dark of night on a blacked out train, surrounded by Pinkertons, they called it. It was a very special series of agents. So Dan Bongino is now making the call that we're going to have to do the same thing with Donald Trump, asking specifically during our show, Eli Crane, responding to Eli Crane on our show. Here we go.
If this continues, he's not going to make it to Inauguration Day, even if he wins.
Ooh.
You hear what I just said? There's something that has to happen today. Congressman Chip Roy, Congressman Crane, Congressman Biggs, Congressman Mills. These are the guys who seem to really, really care about what happened. We did that hearing up there. Forgive me if I'm leaving anyone out. I'm asking you guys, because you seem to be the ones intensely concerned with keeping the president and potentially next president alive. There's something you need to get started on right now. Right now, meaning 10 minutes ago. If someone doesn't pass legislation reforming 18 U.S.C. 3056, Title 18 of the United States Code, Section 3056, that gives the Secret Service its power. If someone doesn't pass legislation today reforming that and removing their investigative function, I'm sorry, but you guys are behind the eight ball.
What does Dan know? What does Dan know? Man, I can't wait to talk with him about it. There is somebody who knows the inside workings of the dark forces behind our federal government better than, I would argue, better than any public-facing person who's willing to go on a podcast and talk about it. It's somebody who's been able to be able to pluck the strings of the intricate spider web that connects, NATO's interests here and all of the influence operations throughout the world as we stare in awe as to how a gunman could get so close to President Trump. That gunman had very strange connections, very strange relations. And there's only one man who is the proper person to peel back those dark curtains and show us what's really happening. That man is Mike Benz, and he joins us now. Mike, thank you. I was delighted to have you on the program. We have probably an hour before President Trump speaks, maybe less, but I want to just begin by saying every alarm bell that you have coached me in, and you've done it often live in front of tens or hundreds of thousands of people, so you've been coaching all of us, every alarm bell is ringing right now. This guy was a NATO sycophant. He was recruiting soldiers. He was working with Iran, working with Afghanistan. He had clearly had his brain broken. He followed CIA operators and handlers on social media who are representatives of every cutout organization you've ever talked about on this program. And I don't want to jump to any conclusions here, but I'm saying that the burden of proof, I guess, is going to now be with the government to tell us, no, this guy wasn't part of something much, much deeper and darker.
Well, I mean, exactly what you just said. It lights up in the brain a veritable pinball machine of blob connections. It's almost overwhelming. I mean, the fact is this is a guy we're told was an unemployed construction worker, jet setting around the world for years to every CIA hot zone on the planet. I've been making the joke that he is the Forrest Gump of CIA paramilitary activity, not just because of, the sort of mentally challenged aspect of Forrest Gump, but because he serendipitously just happened to be at the right place at the right time when the CIA plumbers broke into Watergate and when all these various historical things happened. And the fact is what Routh was doing implicates the CIA activity or it's tangential to the CIA activity in Pakistan, in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Iran, in North Korea, in Haiti. You almost can't spin the globe and find a CIA hot zone where Ryan Routh was not actively recruiting paramilitary muscle for the CIA DoD work there. And then you add the very strange protection aura that Routh has had for years. This is a guy who has 74 arrests on his record, but never spent a day in jail. And I gave this to your producers if they want to pull up slide number 3,
please,
which is the Daily Mail article. And let me know if you need the link to that. You can just Google the article name just from the image. But
failed Trump assassin racked up extensive rap sheet, felonies, petty crimes, never spent a day in prison.
Right. Yeah, this include larceny, brandishing a weapon of mass destruction, a machine gun, a hit and run in his car, 74 times, but never spent a day in jail. And then you add the fact that immediately after this happened, if your producer pulls up the link that is slide 10, this is the CIA targeting officer in 2023 who claimed to actually put out a bolo, a be on the lookout. This is over a year ago for this exact individual, Ryan Routh, but nothing was done. Then you have
CIA analysts warned about Trump assassin's suspect criminal behavior in 2023. So the CIA was
yes.
targeting him.
Yes.
Can you please unpack this very quickly for us?
This is Sarah Adams. I think she's been on the Sean Ryan show several times. She's a public figure, and she put out a series of tweets. If your producer can find it on X, where she, as soon as this news broke, she said, "Oh my God, that's the guy. That's the guy I put out a bolo on because of his highly suspicious activities." Now I can talk a little bit about these. Actually, I want to talk about one quick thing before I transition to what those suspicious activities are, because I just want to sort of set the stage about how protected this person is. So not only did the Justice Department protect him against 74 arrests from ever spending a day in jail, not only did a rank and file CIA targeting officer put out a bolo for him, but then you have, if you go to slides 3, 4, and 5 in the deck that I sent, and if you can pull up that Just the News article by John Solomon, if you look, but this just broke today, and what you see is that Routh was coming back from a trip that took him again through this crisscross. So he was interviewed by U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials when he returned back to Hawaii from Ukraine last year. He was flagged by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, CBP, based on these highly suspicious comments that he was making. They referred it to DHS. And as we'll see, a very specific wing of DHS that Benny, you and I have talked about many, many times, because it's the exact wing of DHS responsible for many aspects of the January 6th Fedsurrection and many suspicious aspects of Trump assassination attempt number one. But just continuing, it says the records show that CBP officials knew that Routh had traveled to Warsaw, Poland, near the Ukraine border, to Istanbul, Turkey, which is the major site where we train the Kurdish terrorists and then ship them into Syria. Turkey is the major CIA training ground and staging ground for shipping human warriors and military equipment from in 2022 and 2023. So for years. Now it says here recruiting as many as 100 foreign fighters from Taiwan, Afghanistan, Moldova. But according to his own numbers, it's far more than that. We have tweets of him talking about how he has stacks of 5,000 Afghan passports that he's working with the U.S. Embassy in Kiev to get no-look visas toward, which is really where we start to get, I think, into the heart of the network here. But in the next slide there in the deck, if you just scroll over to the very next, you'll see it says this is the CBP report that they issued to Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, to investigate. It says subject state he did not get paid for his recruiting efforts. He lists his recruiting partners as soldiers from Afghanistan, Romania, Pakistan, Syria, and Israel. Now understand, Romania is the major transshipment point for weapons, and there's the UK even established a land bridge between Pakistan and Romania in order to make it easier for Pakistan, which is the big CIA weapons and terrorist shipping depot, and it has been since the 1970s when the Pakistani ISI, the Pakistani intelligence service, was essentially taken over by the Central Intelligence Agency when we were using Pakistan as the main staging point for our training and funding of the Mujahideen, which is the origins of Al Qaeda and ISIS. This is why all these corrupt banking networks run out of Pakistan as well. Folks can look up a scandal from the CIA bank known as BCCI, Bank of Credit and Commerce International, which grew to be one of the largest banks in the world. It was set up as a CIA front in order to launder drug money when the CIA was funding the Mujahideen against the Soviets in the 1970s, and then money laundering the deposits into this CIA bank with a Pakistani front. And so Pakistan ships its weapons and arms directly to Romania. That's what it appears he likely was doing in Romania, or at least in his own efforts, recruiting people from Pakistan to Romania. Remember, he was interviewed by Newsweek Romania as well. It's amazing. This guy gets New York Times interviews, gets Newsweek interviews,
Semaphore, all of the all of the establishment rags, like the regime media loved this guy.
Right. Yeah. And it's worth, I highlighted this as well. It says subject states that he obtains money from his wife to help fund his trips to Ukraine. This, again, John Solomon at Just the News just published this today. This is my first time. I'm getting all this information in real time, just like you in your audience. And so there's still this sense-making process. But I find this curious because, he claimed in court that he has basically no assets other than, his trucks with Biden-Harris stickers on them and whatnot. And the claim is that he was not paid directly by the U.S. government or the Ukrainian government. So there's this question: how is this guy who's, dead broke, able to fly to,
We've been asking that. We've been asking that every hour.
Right. And not only that, I mean, I'll pull up a website for you. If you actually go, I believe the link is still live, but he has a pretty sophisticated modern terrorist recruiting website, which maybe we'll get to in a little bit here, which is very slickly designed and gives very detailed logistical instructions for all of the militants that he's recruiting around the world to come join the soldiers in Ukraine, including what airports to fly into, what bus lines to use to go from, to fly from Pakistan to Warsaw or to Kiev, and then how to get to the exact locations. And as we'll get to a little bit later in this, he explicitly says that in big black bold lettering on the website multiple times, do not tell your local embassy you are coming. Do not alert your local government that you are coming. All you need to do is text me on my WhatsApp number, the front and back of your passport. I will work through my contacts to get you guys no-look visas, and you'll be taken care of. Just get on a plane and simply fly. And I'll pull that up for you in a second here, because that really gets to what I suspect is happening in the background of all of this. But I want to draw your attention to one other thing, which is still on this slide here. See, it says the memo states that Customs and Border Patrol referred Routh in June 2023 to Homeland Security investigations. HSI was contacted and they refused the case. That's what their own memo said. I mean, they even laced that. They could have said declined to investigate further. But, you know, I read that sentence and I see CBP as being slightly curious itself with that particular choice of words, refused. Now, understand HSI is one of the most corrupt, dark underbellies of the national security state, particularly in its use of false flag operations. HSI was even more active than the FBI, in my assessment, than the FBI. HSI is a little bit of a rogue cell because the FBI has to answer to the Justice Department. That is, everything they do has to be approved. You got to have some, you know, you have to have basically a web of federal prosecutors and their bosses sign off on the FBI, because the FBI is not a free-floating cell. It is the intelligence arm of the Justice Department. But DHS is broader than that. It is a free-floating cell. It is the only other domestic intelligence agency. We have 17 intelligence agencies. Only 2 of them are domestic. One of them is the FBI. The other one is DHS. But DHS is unchained. So it's a lot easier to run small cell compartmentalized operations within DHS than it is even at the FBI. And HSI is sort of the FBI of DHS. Now, HSI first came on my radar in 2021 as being this very curious, wide-ranging role in January 6th. Folks, I've mentioned this, I believe, on your show before when we talked about January 6 issues, but you can look, everyone now can look up an individual named Jeremy Brown, who was one of these folks affiliated with the Oath Keepers in the run-up to the January 6th affair. And he had his door knocked on by 2 HSI agents in about a month before January 6th. And he secretly recorded his conversations with these 2 HSI agents. And the tape is absolutely stunning. They were concerned about upcoming protest activities. A month before January 6th happened, they asked Jeremy Brown to basically infiltrate the Oath Keepers, to basically participate in everything. They threatened him with carrots and sticks. Basically, they said, they effectively said in so many words, we can make your life really hard, or we can do this the easy way. And that maybe there's even going to be a job for you in the Joint Terrorism Task Force. It was basically, either you become an agent of DHS's operation ahead of January 6th, or you, a regular civilian who has committed no crimes, will have your life destroyed. And they even called him on his cell phone at 9 a.m. that day. HSI was involved in dozens of these undercovers. And they coordinated with the FBI through the Joint Terrorism Task Force. But then lo and behold, HSI reappears in Trump assassination story number 1. If you recall, during the Butler, Pennsylvania rally, there was diminished Secret Service representation because of 2 things. One, there was the tail end of the NATO summit. So Secret Service had to be deployed for all the VIPs around the NATO summit. And then there was Jill Biden's trip, which then also, reduced the present capacity of the Secret Service. And so the top-up agents for the Secret Service for Trump assassination attempt number 1 came from HSI, this exact division which was doing the Fedsurrection on January 6th. And lo and behold, it is HSI once again in Trump assassination attempt number 2, who was explicitly referred to investigate the person the CIA had put out a bolo on, because he appeared to be doing the exact thing the CIA was already doing, but in an unauthorized fashion. And lo and behold, HSI, even apparently to CBP's bewilderment, refused to look at it even for a millisecond. So this guy has an invincibility cloak. And just to talk a little bit about the history of these invincibility cloaks, understand that every year there are over 25,000 authorized crimes that are authorized by the Justice Department. In fact, if your producer even wants to pull up in the background, just some of the data, you can just run a Google search for FBI authorized crimes and how many there are every year. You can put in, I think 22,800 is an article from 3 or 4 years ago that you can see just for this. But this is part and parcel of what the CIA does. See, we have a special get out of jail free card when you are committing crimes in furtherance of U.S. national interests. This is, by the way, most of what the CIA does. It would be a crime. Money laundering, for example, is a crime if we do it. But if the CIA takes black market goods and launders them into a proprietary bank and traffics in those narcotics to fund a proxy war, or does black market arms deals, if it engages in wire fraud or money laundering, a number of those are authorized. So that this is why the Justice Department has this special relationship with the blob, with this CIA, State Department, DOD apparatus, because we need to maintain a parallel justice system. One for bad criminals, people like you and me if we commit crimes, and one for good criminals who are doing criminal activity, which is the plausibly deniable dirty work that is done by the swarm army of assets and liaisons and back channels and operatives of the national security state around the world. And there are few darker places in that story than the recruitment of terrorists to serve as human meat fodder for a NATO war. And actually, if you scroll down on this article, you'll see right here, this is from Forbes. Forbes and other agencies paid informants $548 million. And if you look at the numbers, you'll see right there, and this is from several years ago, many informants were authorized to commit crimes with the permission of their federal handlers, which means when the Justice Department investigates, the CIA intervenes, just as the CIA did in Hunter Biden's case. If you remember, the man who paid Hunter Biden's taxes for the past 5 years, the man who was his sugar daddy, and when the Justice Department came to question him, the reason they called off the questioning was because the CIA stepped in and said, not this one. And this is a story that plays out, and it's not just the FBI. This is not just the CIA. This is a CIA, DOD, FBI counterintelligence. They all work together through the interagency. What I'm describing is a possible and very disturbing explanation for the invincibility cloak that Ryan Routh has had for years. And now there's another element of this that gets to what Routh was doing. Because look, he is obviously a crazy person. He has that sort of E. Jean Carroll, crazy eyes, wacko cadence. And I'm not, first of all, I'm not alleging anything. This is all just preliminary sense making of the evidence that we have so far in the, given the total black hole void of official guidance on everything. And frankly, the lack of credibility in the officials issuing the non-guidance that they haven't even issued. But what I'm getting at here is everything the CIA does, everything that state and DOD does when it comes to things like recruiting terrorists, recruiting violent extremists willing to fight in a holy crusade to kill their blood enemies, everything that touches that domain runs through a labyrinthian network of contractors and subcontractors and subcontractors of subcontractors and subcontractors of subcontractors of subcontractors. It's like this Russian doll situation, where it's just, there are so many links in the chain, and there's a number of reasons that that's done. It's done always. Remember, 70% of the CIA's budget every year is spent on contractors. So every operation, remember, 30% of the budget is just to, upkeep, maintenance, bookkeeping, accounting, legal. So 70% of it is spent on contractors. Every operation runs through contractors, and the contractors, subcontractors, because you want to create 10 to 12 layers of subcontracting out, because that is what gives you plausible deniability. If the 12th person in the chain does something dumb, if they get caught, if they get in trouble with the law, if they confess to the New York Times, you now can say, wasn't us. Even if he says he was CIA, even if he says that his friends were, even if these are the people he were following on X, he talked to this guy talked to this guy was hired by this guy, and that guy happens to have a connection to the agency. This is the bread and butter 101 of plausible deniability work. Now, the other thing is this is not a line of business that, the people who would be doing this low-level recruiting, because what Routh was doing is he was trawling social media. He was trawling Twitter and Facebook and Telegram and WhatsApp and going into these channels in Haiti, going into these channels in Afghanistan, these channels in Pakistan, these channels in Iran, and soliciting them to drop their life and move and die and move to and die in Ukraine. This is the sort of thing that it seems highly likely, given that this is the Ukraine war is the number one main conflict zone of the CIA and DOD. It is the CIA built that network that he is recruiting from. I mean, literally, those Afghan militants were capacity built from bubkis in the 1970s into a fighting force, because we were weaponing them. We were fashioning them as weapons to fight the Cold War in Afghanistan, as I mentioned. And in fact, they have been, to listen to our former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, if you recall the famous WikiLeaks email from 2012, where Hillary Clinton told Jake Sullivan and the others on the email chain at the National Security Council, representing the State Department in an official communication, that Al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. Remember, ISIS is the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. And you had the Secretary of State, which is effectively the quarterback of the CIA. The CIA only exists to serve as a support agency for what the State Department is doing or for what the Pentagon is doing. That's all it does. It's just, there's a State Department foreign policy goal, but it's too dirty for the State Department, so they need plausible deniability. So the CIA is tasked with it. Same thing when it comes to the war fighting or military functions, where the CIA can be a nimble operator in those regards. And so when the Secretary of State, because remember, that's a promotion. Mike Pompeo was the director of the CIA. He got promoted to the Secretary of State. Bill Burns, our current CIA director, never worked for the CIA before. How did he become CIA director, having never worked for the CIA a day in his life? Well, it's because he had spent 35 years in the State Department. It's the same job in the State Department as the boss. So you'll see this, right, highlighted there. ISIS is on our side.
Al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria.
Yes. Yes. And this is who, so, and the CIA was, it was hilarious, because you can also look up, funny reporting where we had so many CIA DOD operations going on in Syria between that some of our terrorist groups started fighting our other terrorist groups. You can look up a funny case that happened a few years ago. I believe this was in the LA Times, where CIA-backed terrorist groups were fighting Pentagon-backed terrorist groups. I mean, this is the whole thing is a monopoly Yahtzee game. It's a blob Yahtzee game, effectively, where it's just a total smorgasbord of CIA DOD activity. And the fact is, and I didn't populate this because I didn't have time in the Google Doc, in the PPF whatever thing that I sent over. But there are literally hundreds. It is overwhelming. Hundreds of tweets and Facebook posts and screenshots of WhatsApp messages of the thousands, 1,000 here, 3,000 here, 5,000 here, of these Al-Qaeda fighters, essentially, being solicited to get no-look visas to fight the war in Ukraine. And I'm going to get to the visa thing here because I think that ultimately might be, if Congress is allowed to investigate this, what cracks the whole thing open. But I do want to make one other point first. Yeah, this is funny, right? In Syria, militants armed by the Pentagon fight those armed by the CIA, right? And if you remember, where did CBP say that Mr. Routh was traveling around in, and who he was working with? It was Pakistan, it was Iran, it was Afghanistan, it was also Syria. So he's literally recruiting from the CIA DoD network. Now, this is dirty work. After the 2014 coup in Ukraine, where we overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine, however you feel about it, I'm not opining on foreign policy. I only care about internet censorship. You just need to understand these dynamics to know what you're up against, because these are the same people who are responsible for global internet censorship. But the fact is you can also look at reporting about the mass, very strange, peculiar influx of Al-Qaeda and ISIS fighters into Ukraine after the 2014 coup, when this was before the 2022 war broke out between Ukraine and Russia formally. The entire eastern half of Ukraine formally seceded from the Ukraine government, the newly installed U.S. Embassy in Kiev government. Remember, they installed that. That was the hot mic between the U.S. ambassador, that is the head of the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, the exact place that Ryan Routh claimed that he was communicating with to get visas for these terrorists. That was Jeff Pyatt and Victoria Nuland, who was then the Assistant Secretary for Europe and Eurasian Affairs. So the regional head and the head of the embassy are called on a hot mic installing the new president. The entire eastern half of the country says, actually, we didn't vote for this person. We're going to do our own thing. And then Crimea also voted to join the Russian Federation. But from 2014 to 2022, the CIA, the DoD, British intelligence, the British Ministry of Defense, and support from NATO partners like Canada, who has its own oil and gas interests in Ukraine as well, and some of these other supporting economic stakeholders, were supplying money, muscle, and running these recruiting networks to try to bring in militants from all around the world to help the upstart, scrappy Western Ukraine military, which was very fledgling at the time and needed to be capacity built. They needed to add bodies. And this is something that the CIA had been doing for a very long time. You can go back to the Chechnya Russia affair, where there was also these sort of, Islamic terrorist groups that were incubated by the CIA at that time. So these networks had been already very well established, but there was this mass influx of ISIS and Al-Qaeda fighters to go out and kill the Russian ethnic Ukrainians living in the eastern part of the state. And so they had been sourcing from these networks for a very long time. And there was a bad need to increase these bodies. This is way before the military draft that has basically taken every able-bodied and even some elderly folks in Ukraine to be conscripted into it. But even that's not enough, because they are technologically and militarily outgunned in many respects by the Russian military, and so they need more bodies. So Routh, in his own social media posts, on his own website, and we should pull that website up, by the way. I'll find the link for you in a second here, just because it's very interesting. But this,
I do want to just pause here for just a second, Mike. I just want to let you just do a real quick preview here, show you where we're at with the Donald Trump town hall. They just sang the national anthem, got a dude with a guitar on stage and a cowboy hat. So this is where we're at, waiting for the president and for Sarah Sanders. And we're going to be cutting to this event when Donald Trump and Sarah Sanders take the stage. And so I just want just a programming note, ladies and gentlemen.
No, thanks.
And Mike, please, the floor is once again yours, as this is utterly fascinating.
Sure. So I am not alleging, first of all, again, I'm not alleging anything. This is all preliminary, but in what I believe to be the most likely way to sense make what's happening here is that so I just sent this link to your producer if you want to pull it up on screen. Oh, okay. You found this. Actually, let's just do this while it's on screen. Mm-hmm. So this is the website. Is it still live, by the way? I archived it, but it's just it's very interesting. So this is, So first of all, this is a pretty slick website. This is, for a crazy person who has a hard time stringing together, 6 consecutive lucid sentences. If you scroll down to, I'll show you where it's right there. Oh, scroll up a little bit. And then if you zoom in, we're going to start now getting into the heart of what I suspect is going on here. So yeah, if you scroll down a little bit just to, so that those 2 paragraphs are right there. Okay. And you'll see what it says is, this war is about moving our entire world together, all these sort of Getty images of Ukraine. But look at the bold. Do not call your home country embassy to seek approval to join the fight. Simply get on a plane and come to Ukraine and join us. Do not tell the government. This is a guy who was flagged by our own CIA in the government, flagged by our own Customs Border Patrol in the government, who is, as we'll see, back channeling with the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, the exact place, the heart of darkness. Jeffrey Sachs is fond of making this joke, and he started making this joke before 2020. I guess it was a lot more funny then, that the only reason the U.S. had never experienced a coup in its country was because the U.S. is the only country on earth that doesn't have a U.S. embassy. Right, because you can't have an embassy in your own country. It's the only reason we have not had our government overthrown.
Mike,
but,
I got to tell you, we got Sarah Sanders on stage, so we have Sarah Sanders on stage.
Wait, we haven't gotten to the good part yet.
I know, Mike. We're here to for the town hall, and so I want to get to these answers. Please.
Okay, last thing on screen. Look at the second bold. Look at the second bold. It says, "Fighters, do not waste time with the embassy in your country, because don't worry, we're going to take care of it through the U.S. Embassy in Kiev." That's the State Department, Benny. This hits all 3 of the, of the blob triangle. You have the CIA, the DOD, and the State Department. And I suspect that there were hundreds of people like Routh who were friends of friends. Somebody is working in the military thing. They say, okay, we just need people to spend 12 hours a day. Okay, all right. That's so much more to say, but I know we got to cut. Find me on X at Mike Ben Cyber. Follow me there for if you want to subscribe. I give weekly lectures multiple times a week, office hours, all that. Yeah, it's, you want to learn, come to the quad.
So very, very quickly. I mean, I know this is a complicated question, but just very quickly, this is an asset that went rogue. Yes, is that what you would assume here? This is an asset. This is a guy who was working with the blob that went rogue, that had his brain broken. MK Ultra, I don't know, and then just went nuts.
Asset is maybe a strong word. I think that's technically not necessarily inaccurate, but I see this as being somebody who was part of this sort of tail end subcontractor of subcontractor type situation. Typically, when you refer to an asset, it refers to somebody who's playing a little bit more of a prominent role, someone who's a piece on the CIA chessboard, as opposed to a highly disposable tail end, the 37th leg of a CIA centipede. I don't think that there would have been a formal association. I think that there were hundreds of people like this who, I was going to get to, on the heart of this, on the visa situation. If folks want to look up an individual named Michael Springman, who was the senior State Department official for visas in Saudi Arabia at the time when John Brennan, the then CIA station chief in Saudi Arabia, was pushing visas for terrorists and working with the State Department to basically fire anybody who didn't give no-look visas to terrorists based on the front and back of their passports. And the same thing Routh was doing. And Michael Springman describes, again, this is a senior official at the State Department, describes this Byzantine process for actually getting recruiters to make contact. And I suspect that that's the role that Routh was playing in a highly removed, plausibly deniable, easy to cut link in the chain where they just needed people out there recruiting. But then that opens the other question, which is they were in contact. It appears highly likely they were in contact and that he was protected in what he was doing. And the question is, did anyone in that network have advanced knowledge of his plans to assassinate Donald Trump?
Okay, well, Mike, we have invited you to Tampa. We know that you're in Washington, D.C. You're going to be doing some incredible testimony. We will certainly.
No, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, fine. Well,
No,
then we look forward to supporting you in your endeavors. Please come to Tampa as soon as possible, and I promise you there won't be a live event. And we will sit at a bar and we will film it, and you can tell me everything, and we'll go for 3 hours. All right.
Yeah, we may need some drinks on that, but yeah,
There you go.
it's the right setting.
Thank you for at least laying the groundwork, Mike. Godspeed, Mike Ben Cyber. All right, ladies and gentlemen, amazing stuff. Here we have Sarah Sanders, who is live.
Big deal at our house.
Speaking
Scarlett didn't just want to go to the
right
dance.
now.
She wanted a big reveal. She wanted to come down the stairs and her Prince Charming, my husband, to be there and everything to be this magical, special thing. So I'm sitting at the top of the stairs, putting the finishing touches on Scarlett, making sure she's ready for the night of her life. And as I'm talking to her, I'm telling her how proud I am of her, how thankful I am that God chose us to be her parents, how beautiful she is on the inside and out. And as I'm having this moment, I start to get a little bit emotional, teared up. As my eyes fill with tears, my sweet daughter reaches up, pats my shoulder, and says, "It's okay, Mommy. One day you can be pretty too." So my kids keep me humble. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything keeping her humble. You would think after 4 years of straight failure, she would know a little humility. Unfortunately, she doesn't. You would think after 4 years of wide open borders, skyrocketed inflation, and an embarrassment on the national stage, she would be held accountable for the failures of this administration, but she thinks she can walk away and get out of it. But we're not going to let her. Because the future of my kids and the future of our country depends so much on who our next president is. It's why I know you're here tonight. It's why it is so important that we show up in the biggest way possible and send a very clear message. We are finished with the failures of the Biden-Harris administration, and we're ready to bring our fighter back. Ladies and gentlemen,
here we go.
Please help me welcome the greatest president our country has ever seen, our friend, our fighter, Donald J. Trump.
This is awesome. Donald Trump working the rope lines. Looks like a very crowded, very nice, like intimate audience. Here we go, baby. Trump going in with the audience. I love it. Trump's like shaking it. I was like,
Typically, he'd be right on stage, right? But he's like walking through the crowd. Definitely a message about the assassination attempts there. Awesome. Here we go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a lot of people for a town hall. Nobody's ever seen a town hall like this. You know, a town hall is supposed to have about 300 people. You have about 8,000 people here. And equally as important, you have about 8,000 people that are not here. They're walking away. But I think we have television outside, right? So they're watching from outside. Would anybody like to change places with them? I thought you were going to say that. Thank you, everybody. Hello, Sarah.
Mr. President, nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Well, it's been a great experience. It's a dangerous business, however, being president. It's a little bit dangerous. It's, you know, they think race car driving is dangerous. No. They think bull riding, that's pretty scary, right? No. This is a dangerous business, so we have to keep it safe.
Mr. President, I don't think there's a person, certainly in this room tonight, and probably anywhere in the country, that doesn't remember exactly where they were on July 13th, that Saturday, when a horrific thing happened, an attack not just on you, but what I see as an attack on our entire country. They have
Get me fights in the chat. Fight in the chat.
joined with everyone in. We know that you were tough. We saw it every day on the campaign. We saw it when you were president. But I don't think anybody was prepared for what we saw that day. And now it's happened not once, but twice. You've literally taken a bullet for our country, and yet you keep fighting. You never give up. The reason that you're going to win in November is because America needs a fighter. And we've never needed a fighter more, and we've never had somebody more qualified to step in and lead our country than you. I'd love for you to tell us, why do you want to be president, and why do you continue fighting even after they keep attacking you every single day?
So we ran. Thank you, everybody. A lot of love in this room. I love you. You love me, and you love Sarah. A lot of. So we ran in 2016, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and we won. We then ran in 2020, and we did much better than 2016. People don't like to hear it, you know, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist, you know. We got millions and millions more votes. We did much better. It wasn't even a contest. I was telling one of the papers, they said, what was the difference? I said, well, the difference is we did much, much better the second time. But we had a lot of things happen. We know what those things are. So what difference? Because now in like 48 days or whatever it might be, we're going to do something that will be, I don't think it's going to shock the world, actually. I think the world is going to be maybe prepared already. In Europe, they want it to happen. Even though they would not prefer dealing with me in terms of the economics, they still want it to happen because the whole world is blowing up, and they know it's not going to blow up if I'm president here. But so we did great. And honestly, if I didn't do great, if we know what happened, and if that didn't happen, if I didn't do well in 2020, I wouldn't even think about doing this. But we did phenomenally well, and bad things happened. We're not going to let it happen again. And now I'll tell you, so 2016, a lot of spirit. 2020, we had unbelievable spirit. And then we got let down because what happened should never be allowed to happen in this country again. But I have never seen the spirit like I've seen right now for this race. Never, ever. Never seen anything like it. It blows it away from 2016, from 2020. And basically, it's very simple. You're saying what? We're going to seal the border immediately. We're going to drill, baby, drill. You know, we're going to drill at a level. We're going to bring your energy prices down. We're going to try and get rid of a lot of that big lump of inflation that this administration has given us. And I have to say that President Biden called me yesterday. It was very nice. We had a very nice conversation. I appreciated that he called about, you know, what happened the other day. And he says, he's committed. He's committed. No, and today, a little while ago, I got a very nice call from Kamala. No, it was very nice. It was very nice. It was very, very nice, and we appreciate that. But we have to take back our country. We have to win. We're going to win, and we're going to make America great again. That's all there is to it. Very simple. Right?
I think it's safe to say that this crowd will all be voting for you.
You know, when I think of this state, it's so sad. Years ago, I was given, thank you very much, but years ago, I was given an award as like Man of the Year or something from an area that nobody knew, and the press said, oh, it never happened. Well, then it did happen. They found out where it was, but it was like 15 years ago. A beautiful area, but nobody remembered it. Nobody remembered it all. All of a sudden, like through a miracle, they found out it did exist, and it was there. And I had the speech, and the speech was, don't let them take your automobile industry away. They're taking your automobile industry away. And I don't know why you're doing it. Now, I wasn't a politician. I was an entrepreneur. I was a real estate developer, doing great, having a lot of fun, doing a much simpler life than this. Who would think that a developer's life is simple, but it's a lot simpler than this. But I said, don't let them do that, because here I am in Michigan, and I was getting an award, and I'm making a speech. I'm saying, what am I going to say? But I just watched common sense. I saw them leaving for Mexico, leaving for China. Do you know that right now, and they weren't building them with me, they weren't building anything in Mexico having to do with cars with me, because I said, if you build it, we're going to put a 200%, you're not going to sell one car into this country. But right now, they're building some of the largest auto plants anywhere in the world ever built. I have a friend that does that for a living, very good at it. He's the best, I think. And he's actually a contributor, a supporter, but he builds the plants. And I say, you know, I'd like to go see a plant, a really great auto plant. You know, it's amazing technology, amazing what they do, really incredible, the amount of automobiles they can produce and the size of these things. I'd like to see a real modern plant. And he's the one that does them. And I said, so where would we go? I was hoping he'd say Detroit or someplace up here. But anywhere in this country, I'll take anywhere in this country, right? So will you, my greatest guy right over here. Stand up, will you, please? He's such a great guy. Oh, hi, everybody. We're going to bring him back. We're going to bring him back. We're not just going to keep, you know, you're losing your jobs, the whole thing, but just, so they're building. So I said, where would I go? And let's go take a look at a beauty. He said, well, we'll have to go to Mexico. I said, wait a minute, I'm not interested. No, I want to know here. He said, here we don't build top of the line. We build smaller plants. We build, we just, you know, there's just not that kind of a thing. And I said, isn't it sad? He feels that too. You know, he's a United States guy. But he said, if you want to see the big ones, you're going to have to go to Mexico. They're owned and built by China in Mexico. And there are a number of them going up right now. And they think They're going to make their cars there, and they're going to sell them across our line, and we're going to take them, and we're not going to charge them tax. We're going to charge them, I'm telling you right now, I'm putting a 200% tariff on, which means they're unsellable. Unsellable in the United States. And then you wonder why it gets shot at, right? You know, only consequential presidents get shot at. When I say something like that, you have countries saying this guy, but what can you do? You have to do what you have to do, right? We have to be brave. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country left. So what's happening is they're building these massive auto plants, and they think they're going to make tens of thousands of automobiles and sell them in here. No tax, no nothing. It's not going to happen. When you put on tariffs, tariffs are the greatest thing ever invented. You know, I took in $467 billion from China. Nobody else took in anything, and China's economy is not even doing that well. And Biden, you know, they have not been able, and Kamala, they have not been able to take those tariffs off because there's so much money. And frankly, if they did take them off, this country would be flooded with Chinese cars. You don't have the Chinese cars. We put a pretty good tariff on. It was going to be lifted at some point. Then we had COVID. We did a tremendous job in COVID. We gave you a stock market that was higher than just prior to COVID coming in. And we did a great job. We never got credit. We got credit for the best economy maybe ever. We got credit for having defeated ISIS and having rebuilt our military. We shouldn't have given, Sarah, we shouldn't have given $85 billion worth of equipment to the Taliban, to Afghanistan. I think the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That whole thing was the most, when we were leaving with me. I was the one that got it down to the right number. We were going to keep the big air base, which is exactly 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. Think of that, 1 hour away. And we gave it up. We just gave it up. One of the biggest, one of the most, we spent billions and billions of dollars many years ago. The runways can hold more weight than any runway ever built. Think of that. They're, I think, 19,000 feet long, which is, 3 times what a normal runway would be. It's called Bagram. And we were going to keep that because of China, not because of Afghanistan, 1 hour away from where they make their nuclear weapons. So that was a good one. We left, and the way we got out was so embarrassing. And because of that, first of all, 13 dead soldiers. I've gotten to know their families. They're incredible families, but they'll never be the same. Many badly injured, Sarah, nobody ever talks about the soldiers that are badly injured. They talk about 13 dead, and we always have to say that, number one, and great families. But nobody ever mentions the fact that some of the soldiers were hurt so badly, the arms, the legs, the face, like obliteration. We left American citizens behind, and they're not too happy, I can imagine. But if they're living, and we also gave them $85 billion worth of the best military equipment, all beautiful, brand new, between the goggles and the planes and the armor-plated cars. We gave them armor-plated trucks and cars and vehicles. And so much, and they're one of the largest sellers now today of military equipment in the world. They're selling this stuff. 777,000 rifles and guns. Think of that. How do you have that anyway? Who would put that? We have 71,000 trucks and cars, and again, many of them armor-plated. So what happened is when Russia looked at that, they said, we're going to invade. We're going to go into Ukraine. If that didn't happen, I don't think, and I guarantee you, if the election were a straight election, we won that election, we should have won that election, everybody knew we won the election, they would have never attacked. Putin never would have attacked, but the oil prices got driven up at $100 a barrel. He made money. He's the only guy fought a war, and you make money fighting a war, but it got driven up because of their bad energy policies. But when he saw that, and you wouldn't have had, think of this, you wouldn't have had, how different would the world be? You wouldn't have had Ukraine being attacked by Russia. You wouldn't have had October 7th in Israel, where that horrible situation took place because Iran was essentially broke. They had very little money, and we would have made a great deal with them. All we want is we don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. That's all we want. We don't want you to have a nuclear weapon. We would have made a good deal with Iran. They would have been happy. And I think they're going to end up being very unhappy, but it's very dangerous. They're very close to a nuclear weapon. And the other thing, you wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had inflation because inflation was driven up by their bad energy policy. And you remember your gasoline started going up to $5 and $6 a gallon. And then what happened is they said, oh, we're going to get killed. We have an election. We're going to get killed. And they went back to my policy. So they went back to the same. What they don't, and they say, we produce the same amount as Trump. Well, they went right back to my policy, or you would have been buying, you would have had $25 a gallon gasoline. So they went back. What they don't say is, though, I would have been producing 4 times as much. And I took us from third into first place by a lot. But we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country in the world, including Saudi Arabia, including Russia. And we would have been so dominant in energy. We would have, we didn't need any energy from anybody. We didn't have to protect any other countries in order to get their oil, which we've done for many years in the Middle East. We were energy independent. Sounds so beautiful to say it. We're energy independent. We were soon going to be energy dominant, and we would have been now having so much money coming out of the energy. We just have the best. We have Bagram in Alaska. They say it might be as big, might be bigger than all of Saudi Arabia. I got it approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. I got it done. In their first week, they terminated it. Check that one out. Bagram. Check that one out. Think about this. Between Bagram, you go to Anwar, you take a look at the kind of things that we've given up. We should have that air base. We should have that oil. We would have had a whole different country. But to give up Anwar, to give up the biggest air base, military air base in the world, and they left it in the dark of night with the lights on, and they did leave the dogs behind. There are a lot of people, they say, what about the dogs? They left the dogs behind. But we would have been a much different country right now. But we're going to get it back, and I promise you we're going to get it back with guys like this and people like that. And Sarah, just one thing, because this is the world's longest answer to an otherwise simple question, but the difference is I give an answer that's productive as opposed to an answer that is not very productive, right? Like in the debate. But just to end this, we are going to, for Michigan, because we want to be a little bit Michigan-centric. You used to be the capital of the world in cars. Today, you're an afterthought in cars. And I don't know the head of your union. I've never met the gentleman, Sean. I've never met him. But what he's done to your union and what he's done by agreeing to allow this country to say we're going all electric, which at some point they're going to end up taking back that mandate because that mandate is insane. They want to go all electric basically by 2030. And for him, think of this, for him to do that, just real fast, you're right now at 25% of where you used to be and heading south because the electric cars are all going to be made in China and Mexico, but they're all going to be made basically in China. We are going to bring so many auto plants into our country. You're going to be as big or bigger than you were 50 years ago because they won't be able, if they're not willing to build a plant, we don't want their product. And that's enough. That's all I wanted. And it'll happen fast. It'll happen very fast.
I think it's safe to say that Michigan is happy that you're going to be president again. And Mr. President, we don't mind that you give long answers because you actually have something to say, because you actually got something done when you were president.
You know, it's a very interesting because She said, I don't think I've ever said this before. So we do these rallies. They're massive rallies. Everybody loves, everybody stays till the end, by the way. You know, when she said that, well, your rallies, people leave. Honestly, nobody does. And if I saw them leaving, I'd say, and ladies and gentlemen, make America great again, and I'd get the hell out, okay? Because I don't want people leaving. But I do have to say, so I give these long, sometimes very complex sentences and paragraphs, but they all come together. I do it a lot. I do it with Raising Cane, that story. I do it with the story on the catapults on the aircraft carriers. I do it with a lot of different stories. When I mention Dr. Hannibal Lecter, I'm using that as an example of people that are coming in from Silence of the Lambs. I use it. They say, it's terrible. So they say, so I'll give this long, complex area. For instance, that I talked about a lot of different territory. The bottom line is, I said the most important thing. We're going to bring more plants into your state and this country to make automobiles. We're going to be bigger than before. But the fake news, there's a lot of them back there. You know, for a town hall, there's a lot of people. But the fake news likes to say, oh, he was rambling. No, that's not rambling. That's genius when you can connect the dots. You gotta now, Sarah, if you couldn't connect the dots, you got a problem. But every dot was connected and many stories were told in that little paragraph. But there is something, but they say that. The other thing I say is this. We had 107,000 people show up in New Jersey. We had 68,000 people show up in Alabama. We had 79 or 81,000 in South Carolina. And they'd never said, I'm a great speaker. And I said, am I a great speaker? They say, oh, no, he rambles. What the hell are all you people showing up for if I ramble? You don't want to show up for a rambler. So anyway, thank you very much.
Mr. President, no one has done more to fight for the American worker than you, to bring back jobs and manufacturing to this country. Tonight, there's obviously a lot of people that really care about the auto industry here. And tonight we have a question from one of the auto workers, Isaiah, here in the audience that would like to ask a question.
Good. Sure. Where's Isaiah?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll build a brand new beast. We're going to build a beast right here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President, for having us here tonight. I just want to let you know that I've attended one of your rallies. I did not leave early and I did not fall asleep. Just want to let you know that, sir. I did not do it. I did not do it. I didn't see anybody else doing it either, sir. My name is Isaiah. I'm a third-generation UAW worker, working hard to build trucks here in America. Yes, yes.
Get ready. You're going to be doing plenty of it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I work for Ford, and you actually came and visited the plant that I work at. That's right. You did. And my question to you, sir, is what do you see as the major threats to the future of Michigan manufacturing auto working jobs, and what will you do to eliminate those threats, sir?
Okay, so I'll get into another little bit of a long answer, because when you say major threat, to me, we have one really major threat that's called nuclear weapons. We have other countries that are hostile to us. They don't have to be hostile to us. I always say, if you have a smart president, you'll never have a problem with China, Russia, or any of them, okay? I got along great with Putin. I got along great with President Xi. I got along great with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Everybody said, oh, you can't get along with him. He liked me. I got along great with him, and he has a lot of nuclear force. But you essentially have 5 countries, and you're going to have more. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have more. It's the single biggest threat to the world, not only Michigan, to the world. And you're not going to care so much about making cars if that stuff starts happening. And we have people that are not good at negotiation. The war should have never happened. President Biden, I want to be nice. He was so nice to me yesterday, but you know, in one way, I sort of wish the call wasn't made, because I do feel he's so nice. I'm so sorry about what happened and all that, but I have to lay it out. We have very important, and the same with Kamala today. She could not have been nicer. But the fact is, we have to have people that are respected by the opponent, by the other side, by other countries that have this. Even Pakistan has nuclear weapons. We have countries. India has a lot of nuclear force. We have countries that have tremendous nuclear power. And when I hear these people talking about global warming, that's the global warming you have to worry about. Not that the ocean's going to rise in 400 years, an eighth of an inch, and you'll have more seafront property, right, if that happens. I said, is that good or bad? I said, isn't that a good thing? If I have a little property on the ocean, I have a little bit more property. I have a little bit more ocean. But the fact is that it's a tremendous problem. And we are closer to World War III today than we've ever been. And the difference is, and I say this a lot, this isn't army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is obliteration. The power of these weapons, and I'm the one that revived it, and I hated to do it. But, you know, we had stuff that was 48 years old. They didn't even know if it worked. We have incredible stuff. So does Russia. China has much less, but they're going to catch up over 4 or 5 years. It's the single biggest threat by far to civilization. And nobody talks about it. They talk about global warming. Used to be, remember? Used to be global warming. You know, they changed the name. You know why? Because the planet's getting cooler now. So now what they call it is climate change, because that covers everything. See, climate change, if it gets hot, cool, you know, these people, I don't know if they're for real, but if they're not, they're covered by the words climate change. If it gets cooler, that's good. If it gets hotter, that's good. Global warming wasn't working so well. But the single biggest threat, okay, now let's assume we have a really smart president, and that's not going to be a threat because we have a lot of power. Doing business with China is a good thing, but you have to have a fair deal. Doing business with Russia, they have so much in terms of minerals and things. The size of their land mass is like 4 times bigger than the United States. The minerals and things they have, we can do great business, and you keep everybody happy. You can solve that problem. But let's talk about the local problem. The local problem is that you have countries stealing your business. Mexico is a very big one. Mexico, this year, we have a deficit with Mexico of $250 billion. Think of this. With Mexico, little Mexico, you think of it as a little innocent place. We're losing our ass to Mexico. China, you don't even have to talk about. We have over $1 trillion this year. I was charging them numbers that were unbelievable, and now he's just totally given up the ghost. And we're going to lose $1 trillion in deficits to China. $1 trillion. That's not sustainable. We're going to turn it all around, and we're going to do it through taxation and tariffs. It will be done in 24 hours, and it'll change the whole planet. Just so you know, Sarah, China became powerful because they charge. They don't call them tariffs. They call it a tax. They don't call it tariffs. The word tariff is a beautiful word to me, but to a lot of people that don't understand, it's not a beautiful word because you have a lot of people that are paid off by these countries. They're taking care of these countries, and they don't care about destroying the United States. They want millions of dollars in fees and consultation, but we will, literally in a period of 24 hours, we can change the whole trading of the whole world. They've taken advantage of our country for years. I stopped it. I stopped so much of it. And then we had a focus on COVID, which a lot of people said was put in there for a reason. You know, it came out of the Wuhan lab, which I said right from the beginning, all of you know. It didn't come out of a cave. They said a cave. It didn't come from France. They blamed France. They blamed, I call it the China virus because I like to be accurate, you know? They call it the Spanish flu. They call it all different names when something comes from a country, except for China. We have to call it COVID. What the hell does COVID mean? The China virus. And a lot of people think they did that because they were not happy with me as president. I actually had a great relationship with President Xi. And in his own way, he probably liked me the most, but maybe or maybe not. I saw that Putin the other day endorsed Kamala. And you have to understand, these are major chess players. So when he endorses Kamala, he may say, well, I did that because I love you, and it's better to be doing it. So who knows? But he endorsed Kamala, which is a little unusual. I was watching, I said, that's interesting. I think that's a good thing, isn't it? It really is. But look, we have to turn it around, and we can. we're going to have a reciprocal trade tax. We're going to have so if China charges 152%, which they do in a car, if we sell a car made here into China, which you don't do because the tax is too high, they say to all your companies and to others and to Elon Musk, who gave us, he is a great guy. He gave me the strongest endorsement. And he's a really wonderful guy. But they say to him, we don't want your car unless you build your plant in China. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. That's smart people say that. We haven't said it for many years. I said it. We have a lot of plants going up with Apple and other things. I said, you got to build plants. You don't build plants here, we're going to put the tariffs on your products coming in from China. So we can do it quickly, but we're going to have what's called the Reciprocal Trade Act. Now, I dealt with a senator, a very good senator, actually, but he knows nothing about trade. I said, here's what I want to do, Senator. I want to take the reciprocal trade. If they charge us 100%, we charge them 100%. He said, you mean they charge us, we charge them? You got me. How simple could it be? It was sort of cool because he doesn't care. He's a senator, doesn't care about trade, but you know. So we're going to call it the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act, or I'll leave the name Trump off as long as we do it. So when India, which is a very big abuser, he happens to be coming to meet me next week, and Modi, he's fantastic. I mean, fantastic man. A lot of these leaders are fantastic. You have to understand one thing. They're 100%. These people are the sharpest people. They're not a little bit backward. They are at the top. You know the expression, they're at the top of their game, and they use it against us. But India is very tough. Brazil is very tough. There are certain countries, I can tell you every one. I can give you from top to bottom. China is the toughest of all, but we were taking care of China with the tariffs. So we're going to do a reciprocal trade. If anybody charges us 10 cents, if they charge us $2, if they charge us 100%, 250, we charge them the same thing. And you know what's going to happen? Everything's going to disappear, and we're going to end up having free trade again. And if it doesn't disappear, we're going to take in a lot of money. Okay? But you know, the biggest beneficiary, I believe, is going to be your state. And I won't say that to other states, I promise. About your state, you are going to have plants built at a level that you haven't seen in 50 years. Okay? Great question. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, one of the other things I think that you did that helped protect the American worker as much as anything else, and also make our country and our communities safer, was you actually did something about the border. Just this month, there was a woman in my home state of Arkansas who was killed by an illegal immigrant who was drunk driving, that was deported during your administration and came back under this administration because they have failed to protect our country. It's one of the great threats that we face that you actually did something about. Tell us what you will do on day one to help protect our country.
So we're going to be, day one, we're doing two things. Closing the border and baby drill. Two things. We're going to get down the prices. Thank you. Nice people. I like this crowd. I like this crowd. No, you know what? You're smart people. So, Sarah, thank you. So, over the last couple of years, I've been talking about the border. I got elected in 2016 because of the border, but that border was peanuts compared to what this border is. That border was like a safe border compared. And I did it. I did a great job. And it also includes drugs, came to, much lower. Look, unless you have the death penalty for drug dealers, you'll never get rid of the drug problem. Put that through your head, okay? Put that through your head. And I don't know if our country's ready for it. When I was with President Xi, and again, until COVID, I had a great relationship. Once that happened, I really didn't want a relationship because $60 trillion, millions of dead people all over the world. I was not exactly thrilled with him. But before that, I had a great relationship. And I said, do you have a drug problem? No, 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 we have no drug problem. Oh, how come? Death penalty, immediate. I said, what does that mean, immediate? Immediate, we have what's called a quick trial. You know what a quick trial is? Like in one day, the trial is over. Over here, it'll be 25 years. They'll get some nice liberal lawyer and they'll have it tied up for 25 years. The guy dies of old age. So, but they have a death penalty. In Singapore, they have a death penalty. In a lot of countries, they have a death penalty. You sell drugs because the average drug dealer kills during his or her life 500 people. The average one. The big ones, much more. But when you hear that, you know, when people start to hear that, and I set up blue ribbon committees, I put, you know, nice people, dilettantes from New York and from Los Angeles, people that know nothing about drugs, and they're dealing with very smart people. These dealers are smart as hell, they're tough as hell, and they make a fortune. They make a fortune. And if you don't have the death penalty for drug dealers, you're just wasting your time. Now we can keep it down and we can do better than we're doing now, and a lot better than we're doing now, because what's happening now is out of control. But we had the lowest human trafficking, mostly in women, I hate to say, mostly in women, but we had the lowest human trafficking in 32 years. You know my favorite chart, the chart I put down. When I look to the right, that'll be my all-time favorite chart in history. That was basically a chart showing what a good job I did on immigration. But even if it showed I did a bad job on immigration, it will be my all-time favorite chart, because I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't look over. Let me see that. That was not good. My all-time favorite chart: blue, yellow, red. It was beautiful. Oh, there it is. There it is. There, that was good. These guys are very good back. I didn't. That's a good. You know, the interesting thing, it's always on my left. When it's at rallies, it's always on my list. I only do it about 15, maybe 20% of the time, so I don't do it much. And it's always at the end of a speech. But it's always here. For some reason, they dropped it here. It was at the beginning of the speech, the very beginning couple of sentences. And I turned like a deer bolting, I guess, right? They say good hunters say this. Every once in a while, a deer will bolt prior to the shot. And I don't know, I guess mine was a form of, but I turned around to look at it. It was right here, behind me, actually. And my head was at a perfect angle. It got me. But if you got to be hit, that's the best place. Although it's blood. The doctor, I said, how come so much blood? He said, the ear bleeds more than anything. I said, I'll take it. I'll take it. But it was an amazing thing. And I have to say, because I have to, while we're on the subject, because people do like to talk about it. A few days ago, we had an incident. I have to say, Secret Service did a hell of a job. They really did. They caught one of the gentlemen one of the agents was walking a couple of holes in front, and he saw a rifle, AK-47. That's serious stuff, right? You know more about that. My sons know more about this stuff. But AK-47, that's a bad one. The other one was an AR-15. This was an AK-47. And he saw the barrel of the gun coming out from a bush. Can you believe it? This guy was all set. He was all set to do his number. And there was no talk. He didn't say, hello, what are you doing here, please? And he ends up getting shot himself. He took his gun, started shooting him. And this guy ran. No, great job. I don't know if where is he? Not here, right? These guys do a great job. Now, they do need more people, and they've been complaining about that for a long time, but he did a great job. But you want to know another sort of a miracle? So the guy is now running for his life, and he's got a car a block away or whatever. And a woman, this is a woman, not a man, a woman, see? Women are smarter than men. I hate to say. How does that sound? Our great First Lady is very happy now. Let me just tell you, think of this. Who would do this? I actually asked, I was with the sheriff this morning, I was with a couple of people from Secret Service, who would do this? So you now have a man running, not with a gun, he dropped the gun, we found the gun, but he was gone. And a woman driving in a car saw a man on the street, pretty busy street, running, and she followed him. And he got into the car, and she stopped because she thought he was trouble. He looked different. he's like trouble. She followed him, it wasn't very far, and parked the car behind his car and started taking pictures of his license plate. Now think of it. And Sarah, think of it. No, seriously, who would do that? It's
The women.
not from good or bad, not from, strength or heroism. No, just you see somebody running. I see people running all the time. And, she saw something in this guy that was bad. She may have heard maybe gunshots because there were four gunshots. Actually, the shots, he never got off a shot. The shots were from Secret Service. But think of it. Who would do this? If you took 1,000 of these incidents, would even one person have done it? This woman I haven't met her, but I'd like to meet her. I'm going to meet her, I hope. But think of this. She goes in, she takes pictures of the plate, and then she sends the pictures into the sheriff's office. And the sheriffs are saying, wow, this is pretty amazing. And they were able to get this guy within 10 minutes. They had a high-speed chase on the highway. They got him. Otherwise, we'd probably have an AK-47. They had the camera. He had the whole thing. He was a sophisticated guy. He even had the serial number taken off the rifle, the gun. But think of this. So we'd have all the stuff, but I'd be walking around saying, I wonder where this guy is. Is he in this audience? We would have a maniac out there. This woman was unbelievable. Because I actually asked the sheriff, if it happened 1,000 times, would anybody have done that? He said, maybe, but not much, not much. So she did she was really amazing, amazing job.
We're glad she did. I think there are a couple takeaways there. One, the women of this country love Donald Trump and are going to make sure we do our part. And I think one of the other things that we all know in this room certainly is that God is not finished with you and he has big plans.
Sarah, I just want to say one thing. So when I heard about this tonight, I said, so where am I speaking? Michigan, good. I like Michigan. I want to talk about cars. I love talking about the cars because it's so simple. It's so ridiculous that this is happening. You don't want the electric. You do want electric cars, 7%, 8%. Elon makes a great product. But you know what? And I've driven. His car is incredible. Other cars are incredible. But you have a little thing. But you want to have gasoline-propelled cars. You want to have hybrids. You want to have all sorts. They say a new one is going to be hydrogen. Who the hell knows? They said it has a slight problem. It blows up. And if you're in the car, that could be a little problem. But you want to be able to have whatever it is, whatever the market is and all that stuff. But they said, sir, you're having a town hall tonight. And I said, a town hall? What the hell? They want a rally. They don't want a town hall. Town hall. And I said, so who is the host? Because host or hostess. And they said, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And I said, oh, that's good. I like that. But I figured, Sarah, I love these rallies. You go and you say, we will make America great. Everyone's going crazy. We had one the other night. But you know what? Can I be honest? This was more fun than a rally today. This was fun. This was good, right? This was very good.
We're going to take another question from the audience. Maybe the only job in the country harder than being president of the United States is being a mom, especially under this administration, because they're making everything harder. And tonight we have a mom here in the audience, Barbara, that's behind us, that has a question for you.
Hi, Barbara. Hello back there.
Good
Hi.
evening. Good evening, President Trump.
Thank you.
you for taking our question.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara. I'm a mom of 3, a grandmother of 7, and 3 great-grands, a registered nurse, retired nurse. So I know the cost that goes into raising children and running a household.
Yeah.
People just can't survive now. How are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
Good. Very good. Thank you. So we have to start always with energy. Always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal. And we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that, we've done a hell of a job. 5-0, not 15, 50. Interest rates are going to follow, and actually they're going to follow for another reason. The economy is now not good. And interest rates, you'll see they'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point? But the reason is because the economy is not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we're going to get interest rates down, and we got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely decimated. And, one of the reasons is we allow a lot of farm product into our country. And we're going to have to be a little bit like other countries. We're not going to allow so much come. We're going to let our farmers go to work. And I don't know if you remember, I love the farmers because, I had many meetings as president. I have this gorgeous room with this beautiful table that seats about 35 people. And I was with the farmers. Usually everybody wants something. They all want subsidy. But I was with the farmers. And I think you might have been there, actually, Sarah. I said, look, fellas, we're going to get you such a beautiful subsidy, meaning I'm going to do things. And one of the people raises and, sir, honestly, we don't want a subsidy. This is the first time this ever happened to me. Everyone wants, they want money. They want to build windmills. We want money with these windmills. Anyway, but you know what? It was amazing. He said, almost tears in his eyes, they were getting decimated. We don't want a subsidy. We just want to play, a fair, level playing field. And I said, nobody's ever said that. And I have many industries and many groups of people from different things. They do all different things. It's probably the most dramatic I've ever seen. He didn't want anything. All he wanted was to be able to compete fairly. And the problem we have is other countries, they treat us very badly in that way also. They really are. And sometimes the worst countries are our so-called allies. I say so-called because in many ways they're not allies at all. They take advantage of us. They really take advantage. But we're going to do with the farmers. We're going to do what we have to do with the farmers. We're going to put our farmers. And do you remember the expression? When I was negotiating with China, China said, well, we're not going to deal with this because they never had anybody negotiate. They did whatever they want. They just took us for a bunch of suckers. But I told the farmers it's going to be they're very good negotiators. You're going to suffer for 6 months and then they're going to fold. And that's exactly what happened. They folded and they agreed to buy $50 billion. You might have heard the story. I said, how much? I went to the Secretary of Agriculture. How much did they buy? He said 15. I thought he said 50. So when they're ready to make a deal at 15 billion, I said, no, I want 50. That's what they've been buying. He said, no, it's 15. I said, you said 50. And he said, no, we said 15. I said, that's okay. Ask for 50 anyway. And we got it. We got it. And they buy a lot of our product. But so it's just a great interest rates, energy, and common sense. A lot of it's common sense, everything. I like to say we're the party of common sense. We want to have a strong border. How about that? We want a strong, all of a sudden they've changed. They didn't want any border. They said walls don't work. 2 things work. What are the 2 things? Wheels and walls. If there's a gorgeous computer down here. In about 2 weeks, it's going to be obsolete. A friend of mine is in that business. He hates it. He said, we come up with a new model, and it's the greatest. About 3.5 weeks later, the damn thing's totally obsolete. The only thing that never gets obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall is what we're talking about now. And, we built hundreds of miles of wall. We then added more than I ever said I was going to do. And then we had that bad election result, that disgusting result, and they never put it up. You know what they did with it? They sold it for 5 cents, and it was expensive oil. It was exactly what the Border Patrol wanted, with the anti-climb plate on top, which I always hated because I didn't like the look of it. But, you know, they demonstrated it. We had mountain climbers and a couple of drug climbers, too. These guys are amazing. They put 100 pounds of drugs on the back, and they go up the wall like it's nothing. But they couldn't get over the plate. So all of a sudden I said, okay, I'll put the plate on. I didn't like it. I liked it better without the plate, but it didn't work quite as well. So this is what we did. We had it. We had the best. We had a thing called Remain in Mexico. You don't have to be a genius to know Remain in Mexico is a very good thing. And you think that was easy to get. I think Tijuana, Mexico was probably the fastest growing city in the history of the world. Okay, they had hundreds of thousands. They couldn't come in. When they got in, they let everybody pour into our country. The border, just to finish with the border, when I talk about energy, to me it's exciting, but to a lot of people it's not. But it gets exciting because we'll bring down your costs, all that. But what people want to hear, and I believe when I got elected, I believe it was the border that was the biggest thing, and I fixed it, and I did a great job. And I wanted to mention it in 2020, and my people would say, sir, nobody cares about the border. They don't care because I had it fixed. Now I got to fix it again. I believe the border is of the greatest interest. When you look at what's happening in Aurora, okay? Take a look at Aurora. When you look at what's happening in Ohio, the great state of Ohio, I love it. I'm way the hell up. I wish I was up 18 points in your state, but we are up. We are up. I think when people hear what I have to say, I don't know how you can possibly lose it. I'll tell you this, and I'll say this for Michigan. If I don't win, you will have no auto industry within 2 to 3 years. It'll all be gone. And I know you got a little bit of an increase. It doesn't mean that's the small stuff because it's just a temporary thing, because you will not have any manufacturing plants. China is going to take over all of your business because of the electric car and because they have the material we don't. What we have is a thing called gasoline. We have gasoline. We have so much gasoline, we don't know what to do. They don't have gasoline. So why are we making a product that they dominate? They're going to dominate. You will not have a car industry left, not even a little bit of a car industry. So, and you're going to have electric cars, but you're going to have 7%, you're going to have 9%, whatever it may be. And maybe someday the technology becomes so good that you can do more. I mean, you know, it's fine. But right now, the battery technology isn't there for long term. I always say, I love the electric car, but they don't go far enough. And they don't do well. You know, in Iowa, it was 20 degrees below zero when we had our great success in Iowa. We had a great, and there were cars all over the place. I said, what's wrong with those cars? They don't work well in cold, and they don't work very well in heat. But Elon's going to figure it out because he's great. He gave me the greatest endorsement. He figures everything out. Right now he's got other things to think. He's got to get a rocket up to get those 2 people out of there. I said, Elon, let's get going. No, they're relying on Elon to get the 2 people. Who would like to be up there right now saying we're coming back home maybe in February? So that was not so good. But Elon will solve the problem. He's great, great guy. And he loves this state, and he loves your whole, everything you're doing here. And he's done a fantastic job. He really has. And if he didn't endorse me, I would not be saying that, okay? I wouldn't be saying that.
Thank you. We've got time, I think, for just one more question. When you were president, you built one of the strongest economies our country's ever seen. One of the ways you did that was by passing the largest tax cut in American history. We have a question from Willie who wants to ask you something about taxes and what you're going to do.
Good evening,
Hi, Willie.
future President Trump. I'm a local contractor in this town.
He's a cool-looking guy, too. He's better looking than you.
I'm a local contractor in this town, and I live here my whole life. And I'm going to tell you, I'm kind of concerned about crucial Kamala's tax increase. Can you outline for the people what you plan on doing about taxes?
Great. It's a great question. Look, she's going to double up your taxes. She wants to terminate the Trump tax cut. Just that is going to lift up your taxes by 44%. Just that one move. And remember, I have it so that, like, if you're a farmer or a small businessman, you have no inheritance tax. They're going to give that up. They're going to give everything. You know, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of people didn't talk about it, but if you have a small business, if you have a farm someplace, a lot of farmers, they have beautiful land, but they don't have the cash and they leave it to their children and they're so proud of their children. And the children end up going bankrupt because they have to borrow money to pay off the estate tax. There is no estate tax. And that's something that nobody even talks about, but that's helped. That's saved a lot of families from having to sell their farm or losing their farm. But she's got one thing that's incredible, an unrealized capital gain tax. That will drive every business out of the United States. So what that is I don't know how they can possibly administer. The only ones that are going to make money are appraisers and accountants. So they're taking a business, might have not a lot of money, but it might have great land, and they're valuing it. And what was it this year compared to next year? You got to put down a value, and then you got to go out and you have to pay tax, even though you haven't sold anything. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I don't know how any rich person or any person that's in business can even think of supporting her. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. So, and they're going to raise the capital gains tax, Willie, a lot. Now, as far as regular, people are going to have to pay a lot more tax. Your taxes, she said, 70 to 80%. Some people will pay 70, 80%. You have to understand, a lot of these people are international business people. A lot of these companies are international. They don't care if they're here or someplace else. They go for the best deal. They go for their shareholders. If they raise the taxes like that, they go to other countries. You know who got a lot of our companies is Ireland. Years ago, they took our pharmaceutical industry because they gave them a better deal. They will leave our country. They will leave all those jobs that we created. And I want people to pay fair taxes and all of that. But she's going to be raising your taxes to 50, 60, 70%. And it's not sustainable. And even for the companies, if they have to pay too much, they're going to leave the country and you're not going to have any jobs. So we have to be very, very careful about it. We have to be very, very careful. And I have to tell you that this has really been an honor. This will be the most fun of any state because we're going to bring back an industry that you can do it. You know, we're going to bring back an industry. And mark my words, if for some reason some tragedy happens, because it would be a tragedy beyond the auto business for the whole country, I really believe that. If a tragedy happens and we don't win, there will be 0 car jobs, manufacturing jobs. It will all be out of here. And that includes South Carolina. That includes other places that are competitors of yours. You won't be making cars here anymore. You won't be making anything in our country anymore. We're going to bring it all back. But the one, and I say this, and I said it to another state the other night, and I said, this is not a good thing to say to another state, but I said, Michigan's going to be the most fun because you're so set up for greatness. All you need is somebody smart at the top to say, you can't flood our market with cars. You just can't do it. And if I say you have to pay 100%, you know China pays a big, but I didn't do the big number yet. But if I say you have to pay 100 or 200%, it doesn't matter because I'm going to say, second sense, I hope you don't mind this. However, if you build your plant in Detroit, or if you build it in Michigan, or if you build it anywhere in the United States for that matter, it seems to be the right location, but we're going to have more fun. So I'm telling them about Michigan, and I'm saying, you know, the story's getting a little bit long because I'm talking about Michigan. I happen to be in another state, but everybody loved it because they know you. You're recognized for this. We're going to get, now, they go from paying 100% tariff to paying nothing. All they have to do is build their factory and spend their hundreds of millions of dollars in your state. This will be like taking candy from a baby. It'll happen first, and you get the credit. I'm going to give you the credit.
Well, I don't think there's any question that America was better off under Donald Trump. And we know that it's going to be even better the second time around. Before tonight, I knew you were going to win the presidency. I had no doubt. Arkansas is going to come in huge. But now I know you're going to win Michigan by epic margin. Ladies and gentlemen, we need you to show up. We need you to vote because the future of my kids, your kids, our grandkids depends on whether or not Donald Trump goes back into the White House. And I know you're not going to let us down. More importantly, I know President Trump is not going to let us down because he's shown us time and time again that no matter what comes at him, no matter what the left throws at him, he's going to get back up and keep fighting for this country that he loves so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, man. I'll see you. We'll see you. Thank you, everybody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the microphones are down. Microphones are down. Donald Trump is greeting fans and people in the audience, taking selfies. In like, really, I mean, I see a lot of the comments. A lot of your comments were on screen. People are scared for Trump. They're like, what's he doing walking through the audience? What's he doing? Donald Trump going in on a rope line. We haven't seen that. A message to the people that Donald Trump is here, that he's here to stay, and that he's ready to fight, that he's not going to let multiple, just making sure that the president's not speaking more. Nope, he's just saying thank you, okay? That he's not going to let multiple assassination attempts keep him down. Can't keep a good man down. Donald Trump doing something very rare, again, using the rope line as an entrance, getting up, talking on stage, catered to 4 questions about Michigan and about the economy. Wasn't it nice? Just takeaways here. 1, it's wonderful to hear Donald Trump tell that story. That's a legendary story. He said that Kamala called him and Joe Biden called him. People chanted F Joe Biden and booed at Kamala. It was nice to see that and hear that. Donald Trump obviously making a probably, I would say, the highlight of the night, telling just a beautiful story, mentioning Melania, how happy she is that he's still alive, and talking about this again, assassination attempt. But I'll tell you what, the best moment for me, the most I don't know, spiriting moment for me was Sarah Sanders actually doing what the moderators at the ABC News debate should have done, which is say, we're glad you're alive. We're glad that that no bullet can keep you down, that God has a plan for your life. It was like you sigh a breath of relief just to hear someone say it to the man's face. We've said it on this program. But hear somebody say, like, sorry you took a bullet. And then that more evil people intended more bullets for you. Wasn't that nice to hear? Like, geez, like, wow, like, thanks. I'm so glad that you actually are alive. This is how Sarah Sanders started her questioning. A lot of questions about the economy. Pretty much every question I think about the economy. Everything from auto tariffs, Donald Trump building the wall, to obviously what it means if Kamala Harris gets into office, the assassination attempts, and so on. And so it's, man, it's going to be a wild run. Is Trump still working the rope line here? It's got to be, right? Trump's still working the rope line. This is in defiance of new security protocols that say that Donald Trump speaks behind glass if he's outdoors, that he doesn't interact with the crowds. You can see here Donald Trump interact with the crowd. He left the stage 5 minutes ago, and Donald Trump is still interacting with the crowd, shaking hands. He's obviously wanting to get out there and wanting to meet the people. And he has a withering campaign schedule. I think they're going to go back into 2016 campaign lock-in mode, where he's just going to be doing rally after rally after rally after rally. And now it is a moment where, and now it looks like the Elvis has officially left the building. Now it's going to be a moment where it's their numbers versus their machine versus our machine. Their numbers versus our numbers. That's it, because the polls are effectively tied. Right? Maybe you'll see Kamala Harris go down next week. That's what Mark from Rasmussen predicted this morning. You're seeing Donald Trump ahead, but only by like 1 point, maybe 2 points. This is within what you would call the margin of error. So this is you got to call it a tie race. Now it's about motivating. Now it's about like the major emphasis for the rest of the election season, and we are 50 days away, is get Trump supporters to become Trump voters. Because there's 100 million Trump supporters in the country. I know this. We were just out today. We were out today on like talking on the street with people. Some dude came up to me and said, guys, load this up. I want to play this. Said, let's have a conversation. This dude comes up to me on a bike. He looks homeless. He said he just got out of prison and his first vote ever is going to be for Donald Trump. And this guy comes to up to our cameras. Is like, I've never voted for before. Trump is the man. Trump's my guy. Here, watch this.
Yeah, just got out of jail. A couple of months. Starting to get on my feet. All right. You going Trump in 2024?
Yeah. Give me the first one I vote for.
Look at my African American over here. Are you the greatest?
Yeah.
He's your first vote ever.
Yeah, I would never vote for nobody else. Well, Clinton and some of them old ones.
So you just got out of jail. You know the system, man. They're trying to put Trump in jail.
I think it's real bad. He the only one gonna pull that motherfucking trigger when it's time.
Yeah.
We need to go ahead and get somebody strong in this.
I think Trump's going to save America.
I think that is too.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you go out into the streets and just talk with people, how much of an impact this is having. And so who's getting that guy registered to vote, right? Next time we should just go out with a giant pack of things, a giant pack of voter registrations, probably. Like that's going to be the difference. That's going to be the difference, ladies and gentlemen. So we look forward to obviously releasing more of the content that we got today because it was great. That guy was a little different. We were on a college campus and we were talking to younger people about Donald Trump's second assassination attempt. Speaking of failed assassination attempts, David Muir failed at his journalistic assassination attempt of Donald Trump. David Muir's World News Tonight viewership drops 12% following ABC News debate bias scandal. You heard Donald Trump still, I think, a little icy about the ABC News debate and a little icy about Kamala Harris and his the comments about Donald Trump's rallies and the way that people behave at them. David Muir's World News Tonight has collapsed in the ratings. It's an amazing thing to see. The Trump curse is completely and totally real. I can't believe I'm saying this. Maybe Chris Cuomo should have moderated a debate. Please don't unsubscribe. Here's what I mean by that. Chris Cuomo is the only person in the media who has decided to take a very different tact and to do what we saw tonight. And I think it deserves to be sort of the last clip we play here on the live, which is this. Chris Cuomo says, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry for the rhetoric about you, the rhetoric about your family. I'm sorry that you've had to endure this, and we owe you an apology from the media. I cannot believe this is real, but it is. And he attacked his former colleague at CNN, Don Lemon, over how cruel people have been and how inhuman they have been to Donald Trump. And I think this is how we win. Final thought here. How you win is humanizing Trump. It's why they hate the assassination news cycle. It's why Hillary Clinton, Goblin, crawled onto TV last night to demonize Trump once more. They can't allow Donald Trump to be human. They can't allow people to feel and relate and connect with President Trump. Apologizing to Trump for what they've done to him is humanizing Trump. But people have really human battles and really human fears right now about the price of gas, the price of groceries, the cost of living, the American dream. Is it even like possible to grasp it once more? These are the real fears of people, and they really have a champion in Donald Trump, and they know that. And so they're desperate to try and keep that from you. We're going to be revealing what people actually think on our new channels, Benny on the Block and Benny Brews. Please, ladies and gentlemen, go follow them. We'll be populating the channels with new content every single week. We have a new Man on the Street that's going to be populated every single week. Our Man on the Street contents and short contents going to be on the Benny on the Block channel, and then the Benny Brews is going to be long form interviews at a bar. I don't even drink that much. We just like the name. I don't know. Maybe we can come up with something better. We've done a couple of them. We did Vivek, Nerdrotic, critical drinker. And it's like just a nice place. Like bars are conducive for conversation. People like them. They're fun to shoot in because it's like a cool vibe and neat. You know, it's like often neat neon signs and everything. It's a good aesthetic. So we thought, why not? Please follow these channels. And they're right at the top of our channel. They're obviously going to be our, the family of the network, right there at the top. And we're going up with content on them this week. So we're going to rock and roll. Too much content, too much energy for just one channel. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the positive energy to end your night with. Here is Chris Cuomo apologizing to President Trump for the way that they've treated him. A beautiful, beautiful thing to see. May God bless you all. Have a wonderful evening, and pray for President Trump and his safety.
I'm really sorry that this is going on and it's being dealt with this way. Not because I'm in favor of his politics or what he says. I criticize him all the time. That's my job, and he deserves it. But he doesn't deserve this. A guy pointing an AK-47 at him while he's playing golf? And we take solace in the fact that the guy didn't get any rounds off. That does not work for me. If I had been through what that guy's been through in the last 2 months, you would not know where I am. You would never see me on TV again. No way I would do that. I don't know how he does it. He's got kids, they're adults, but he's got grandkids. He's got a wife. People giving crap to Melania Trump, worrying about whether or not there was a plot around his husband. How could she not? I don't think she's right, but I totally get why she feels that way, and people mock her. And then her husband has a guy pointed with an AK-47. Where are those people apologizing? That's what it's time for. I should not have come at you, Melania Trump, for suggesting that maybe there was something more afoot. I get your paranoia. I get your feelings. You have a right to that. There's nothing wrong with saying that, with being a basic, decent human being. It has gotten too out of control, too far from where we need to be and how we need to be. And I don't know what to do about it.
If you come at the king, you better get in line. Stand there shaking, waiting for your turn. Behind the old font, just heed this alert. You better finish what you start. The media clouds on for the attack, but I stand 6 feet above the ground, because you can't keep a good man down. Come on, take your best shot. Pop my fist, give me what you got. You can't keep a good man down. Come on, take me to my grave. I'll rise again and again and say, you can't keep a good man down. No! You can't keep the good man down, 'cause you can't keep a good man down.
In America, we don't worship government.
And you can't keep a good man down. And you can't keep a good man down.
We worship God.
Come on, take your best shot. Pop my fist, give me what you got. You can't keep a good man down. Come on, take me to my grave. I'll rise again and again and say, you can't keep a good man down. No! You can't keep the good man down. And you can't keep a good man down. Come on, take your best shot. Pop my fist, give me what you got. 'Cause you can't keep a good man down. Come on, take me to my grave. I'll rise again and again and say, you can't keep a good man down. Come on, take your best shot. Pop my fist, give me what you got. Because keep a good man down. Come on. Come on, take me to my grave. I'll rise again and again and say, you can't keep a good man down. You can't keep a good man down.